These are our parallelogram notes. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides that are parallel and congruent. The word congruent means that they are equal. The word or parallel lines will never intersect. So I like to think about the L's in the word parallel as that reminder of two lines that run side by side forever and never ever cross. The other important part is in a parallelogram is that the base and the height must be perpendicular. So that means that those two lines must meet at a perfect 90-degree angle. So you're looking for those corners in that parallelogram. So below it says highlight the base and the height of each parallelogram. So here's my highlighter. I'm going to highlight the bases yellow. So in the first one, it's labeled for us. So the base is this bottom line right here. It does not always have to be the bottom line. It could be on the side, but in this case, it is the bottom. If the bottom is a base, then the top is also a base because they are congruent and parallel. So that means they are the same. In the second one, our base is still on the bottom and on the top. The third one is turned sideways. So our bases are these parallel lines on the sides. And on our fourth one, the bases are the top and bottom again. Now, your base and height must meet at a perpendicular angle. So that means the height in each of these has to be a perfect square. So in this first one, they labeled it for us. Do you see how the base and the height meet right here to make this perfect square? That's going to be what we look for in each of our shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of color that in blue on all of them, so you kind of know where we're finding our heights from. So on the second one, our height is drawn on the outside so that it makes that perfect 90-degree angle. On the third one, the height is the dotted line through the middle. And on the last one, the height is that 5-centimeter line. The biggest thing to remember with your shapes when you're finding the area is we are not using those slanted lines. So if the line is at an angle, we cannot use it because it would not create a 90-degree angle. The formula for finding the area of a parallelogram is area equals base times height. So it's actually the same formula we use for a rectangle because parallelograms and rectangles, oh, that's my next sentence. This is the same formula as a rectangle because we can rearrange the parallelogram by moving the triangle piece to make a rectangle. So what I mean by that, this is going to be a very sad drawing, but here's our parallelogram. If we were to cut this triangle piece off and move it to the other side over here, then you would end up with the triangle piece like this, and then the rest of our parallelogram would be here. So it does indeed make a rectangle. Again, I'm not an artist, so that's about as good as your art's going to get. So, biggest thing to remember while we're practicing down here is we're not using slanted lines, and we are looking for that 90-degree angle to find our base and height. So in our first practice example, again, I'm going to shade in that perfect little square blue. So this 6 makes up that perfect square, and this line along the bottom makes up the perfect square. So if these two sides are congruent, that means the bottom line is also 10 centimeters. So our formula is base times height. We're going to have a base of 10 times the height of 6. So an area of 60 centimeters squared. And remember, you always have to put that squared or exponent of 2 because area is the inside space. And our second parallelogram over here, same thing. Here's my perfect corner. I've shaded in purple this time. It's made up of the 8 and the 12. So area is base times height. In this example, that would be 8 times 12. And 8 times 12 is 96 yards squared. This third parallelogram, they are trying to trick us. So same thing, we're looking for this perfect square, and we're looking for the two lines that make up the perfect square. So my formula is still base times height. In this example, the base is 9, and the height is 3. And 9 times 3 is 27 yards squared. In our fourth example, they've given us 3 numbers. But again, the formula is just base times height, so we don't need 3 numbers. We just need the 2 that make the right angle. So in this case, they didn't draw it for us, but you can see right here, that's your perfect square. This 7 is also on a slanted line. We don't use the measurements on slanted line when it comes to area. So our area is going to be 8 times 4, which is 32 centimeters squared.